Yes, I Am the Veteran, hosted by Brandy Pett.
Welcome. Happy Friday, everybody. Hopefully everybody's had a great week. It's me, Brandy P., the host of the Yes, I Am the Veteran podcast. I know it's been a very wild few weeks for me. I've learned that Europe is not for the... You can hear me. What's going on? With that being said, though, we are definitely very thankful to have such amazing ladies come on the show. Before I did bring these so able to file once a year until you have creams that damage, scar, or just damage their clothing. It's super simple to do. All you need to do is fill out a Form 1080. It literally is just one sheet of paper, front and back, that you can fill out. You can also go to, which I prefer to go in person. I like the date stamp. I'm old school. And get that in prosthetics. You can literally ask them right then and there, hey, when's the last time I had my prosthetic or my wheelchair service? As long as it's within the last 2 years, it'll be valid. It's something I always recommend to my veterans, just because of the fact that it is absolutely use or lose, meaning that miss years for the VA clothing allowance. So I definitely always try to recommend that to as many veterans as I can. So we will go ahead and bring our first guest on. So I met Miss Krenda very recently, and she's very sweet. She's Miss Texas, USA, and she's also an Air Force veteran. I'll let you tell you guys more about her story. Hey sis, how are you doing?
Hey sis, I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm here.
Thank you for having me on the show, and I'm glad that you're feeling better and doing great things.
Well, I try to do the best that I can with what I have left. That's all I can say. But I'm very thankful that I can help people and have wild adventures on the way, I guess. So you are in the 2025 Women Veteran Calendar. Is that right?
That is correct, and I'm so excited about being a part of such a great organization that's doing wonderful things for our community.
And so tell us a little bit about Miss Texas USA. Like, I hear that I've seen your posts where the next competition's coming up in a few days. How do you feel as the outgoing queen?
I am excited. I'm excited to be going to Omaha to compete for Mrs. USA. And I'm nervous. I'm going through all my checklists. I'm taking pictures of clothes and outfits to make sure that they look like they're supposed to look. It seems like time is going faster and faster. And so I get the pre-pageant jitters, but I feel good. And I'm really excited that I get to meet my other Sash sisters. I've really, really enjoyed being Mrs. Texas, and my platform is continuing courage, highlighting the women veterans within the United States community, and just really talking about advocating for mental health, homeless women veterans, and continuing education for our communities.
And I think that's so important that you're doing that, because it's very much an issue that needs to be advocated and discussed more on as many platforms as possible, because unfortunately this demographic and this issue is not going away.
Right, right. 55,000, I think, is the estimated number of homeless women veterans across the United States on any given day. That's a big number, and it's, not to take away from our male counterparts that, served the country and volunteered and did great things. However, there's not always housing that is sufficient or safe for women veterans, considering that 70% of them are with their children.
Absolutely. That was one demographic that becoming a veteran advocate always shocked me. They say the standard patient for the VA system is a 55-year-old white male. And it's like less than 15%, if I'm correct. 15% of women veterans actually use their benefits as they should. And I think a lot of people feel that they don't deserve their benefits when in fact you've earned them. They're absolutely yours. And that's something that you most certainly need to claim. Like you look at it, I look at it like a vehicle, right? Like, when we would PCS overseas, they would just mark up the cars on any little dent or ding. Your 88 and 93, your enlistment physical quite literally was the inspection of the goods, if you look at it that way. When you get out, operation physical is the second marking of the car, basically. So anything that happened between the first inspection and the second is something that you absolutely should claim. But I think that's great that you're doing that. And so I hear you have a new podcast. Is that right?
I do. It's called Beyond the Battle, Pain, Pageants, and Perspective. Each and every one of us has our own daily struggle, our own battle that we fight within or within ourselves. And Beyond the Battle, BTB, is about highlighting and sharing uplifting stories within the veteran and pageant communities, telling stories so that people so they're reminded that they're not doing this by themselves. Every day is a struggle, but every day can be a win.
Absolutely. And I think especially in this Instagram perfect world, people see just images of, what people want them to see, but they don't realize that there's so much more that goes into that and encompasses it. And it very much makes all the difference for people to just realize that what you see, I mean, look at us as an example. Like there's lots of pictures of us, looking amazing in evening gowns, but how often do we post pictures of us looking crazy trying to run into the evening gown or to get ready for the event? Like, if you take pictures of me, you would laugh for like years. I'm a mess before I compete. I think I actually, like the hairpiece I made for Miss Veteran America, I actually glued it in my hotel room after I helped mom glue a walker. Nice. And then I put lights all over the walker, so when the lights would shine on her dress, it made her light up. I was proud of that. I probably got in trouble for that. I didn't care.
That's awesome. I love it.
But it's amazing having you on, sis. And I mean, your perspectives most certainly are something that more people need to hear about. So I definitely wish you all the luck in the world for your competition. Like, I mean, I did it once. I don't know if I would do it twice. So for you to, compete and then have that tenacity to compete again, like what made you drive from competing and maybe not doing as well as you'd like to competing again in a different realm and just crushing it? Like for you, what was your mindset?
So a lot of people will say that it's about the crown and the sash, but for me, it wasn't about the win. It was about the purpose. When I separated from the military, I went in at 17. My whole identity as a woman was wearing that uniform, and that was my superhero cloak. And so, when I got out and I was almost 40 years old, what do you do? Who am I? What am I supposed to do? I'm not 17-year-old Kendra anymore. And some days I really felt like I was really that lost, and I was really that kind of down. And so, when I found pageantry and I found the Miss Veteran America competition and now the Mrs. USA competition, it's not about the crown for me. It's the advocacy. Do you know how many people I get to tell about homeless women veterans? It's amazing the amount of people that I get to go and talk to about continuing education because to see a 99-year-old woman graduating from college is an amazing thing. We're not too old for it. Understanding that there are so many mental health is a big part of the American secrets, things that we just don't talk about as we should, and being able to enlighten people and remind them that it is okay to not be okay for a while. You know what I mean? And just the purpose behind the platform is what does it for me. I don't have to have that crown and sash, but it's fun to get to do it with the crown and sash.
Do you got the wave nailed? Like, wait, is there like a trick to it? I lost, so I don't, and they never taught me this part.
I didn't necessarily, get it
Oh,
right either.
I was like, do we do the AFN wave if we forget? Like, is it like this? Is that how the AFN wave used to go? I forgot.
I love it.
So let me go ahead and bring on our next sister in pageants, I guess we'll call her. But so this is Miss Ann Lutz. So she's another amazing, amazing lady. Miss New Mexico America Select veteran, Miss Ann Lutz. And I don't usually have Air Force on too often, but I'm always happy to have Ann.
Hey, Ann.
How are you doing, sis?
Let me unmute my mic. Hello, ladies. Thank you, Brandy, for having us. And it's great that all of us, and we're going to bring on one more Air Force veteran, that we're all veteran women, and we have that common denominator. So I'm so excited to spend this amazing Friday evening with you ladies.
I feel bad that it's on a Friday. I apologize in advance to your gentlemen. But
It's okay.
But Anne is an amazing lady. I met her when we were doing our Get Her to the Ink initiative we decided to do 2 years ago. And she was like the happiest person that I've met in a long time. And not just like the pageant happy, like once the cameras turn off, you're like, Anne, I'm done. She truly is amazing. She's just good vibes wherever she goes. Yeah, look at her. But my daughter would be so here for that effect right now. But at the end of the day, it's funny because we all, the three of us, we all competed for Miss Veteran America in different years. And so it's just interesting. Y'all know I'm blacklisted right now. But no, at the end of the day, and tell us more about, because I know you were talking about your Engineers Against Domestic Violence initiative. Did you want to talk about how it's going?
Yes, ma'am. Well, everybody gets to choose their own platform with this new pageant system that I'm in. And thanks to the CEO, Natasha, it's under Royal Productions Events by NM. And so Natasha Monique NM, she is the CEO. The main platform is domestic violence. And so as an engineer, I decided I'll just start with me, and then we'll see where it goes from there. And so my platform is Engineers Against Domestic Violence, and it reaches beyond just veterans. It reaches beyond just women. We talked last time about how even men can be victims of domestic violence as well. So, it's involves stalking. It involves not just physical abuse, but also mental abuse. And there are so many unreported stalking incidences. So, Engineers Against Domestic Violence is a great way to start the conversation.
Well, I think that what you're doing is amazing, sis. And I can't wait to see where you're going on your journey. Do you have any upcoming events that you'd like to tell our viewers about?
So I'm excited to meet Chisa Marie. She is going to be our your fourth guest, and she's Miss Florida America Select Veteran. And I know Krenda and I, we got to meet in Orlando, Florida, just last October. So there's a good photo of us together. I'll have to send it so you could post it. And then I think her husband was photobombing in the background.
Nice.
So it's
really
grown,
does.
and we really want to thank Major Jazz Booth for bringing us all together from all over the world, and all different types of backgrounds and branches of service. So there's a lot to be said about just this sisterhood that has grown over the years, and we're gonna probably try to pull Chisa Marie to compete in that that system after she's done her time with the Royal Productions. So, it's a huge thing. It's a great volunteer opportunity for any woman veteran. And it's not a beauty pageant. If you go to Miss Veteran America, it's like Krenda was saying, to get your platform across, to get your message across, because it's such an important and tough message: homelessness, domestic violence.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you guys, neither of you said it, and I'll say it. Miss Better America is definitely a competition like no other. It's basically like the Hunger Games of professional women. If I were to describe it as anything specifically, because man, like I was like the kid that would meet the Millers, like we're getting paid for this because I had no clue what I was walking into. There's like TED Talks givers, like major nonprofit like heads. I mean, women that had done it all, and I'm just like, some guys like did anything at the time, and I was just like, what am I gonna do after this? And my life was really never the same. Putting yourself out there, and it doesn't have to be for a competition of this magnitude, but in my personal opinion, putting yourself out there, it takes a lot of guts, especially when you feel broken, especially when you feel like I'm just not like everyone else. And I feel like maybe that's why I rebel as hard as I do, is to show other people it's okay to be different and to find your new normal. And, it's like Krenda and you guys both have said, it's okay to not be okay for me, but it's not okay to suffer in silence. That's what I like to finish that out as, just because a lot of us have been in dark places, and sometimes we have that person, reaching a hand in and pulling us out of that foxhole. And sometimes we have to get like sporks and like dig our way out. But at the end of the day, when you get out, you turn around and help the person behind you, because you know how hard that journey was. I got my soapbox now. So we're going to go ahead and introduce our last guest, Miss Florida, America's Select Veteran, Miss Chisa Marie. How are you doing, sis?
Doing amazing. How are you guys?
We're here.
I mean, that's all we can do, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And tell us a little bit about yourself, sis. So we hear you're from Florida. Are you from North or South Florida? Because those are like two different states.
Well,
basically.
So in reality, I'm from the Virgin Islands, but after I retired, I was stationed in Hawaii, and my ex-husband was like, "Oh, we should stay here." And I'm like, "Sir, you know how much money it costs to stay here? Like, I don't want to live that kind of life. Like, living my best life is not living in a baby house where people like, listen, Hawaii is beautiful, but so is the Virgin Islands, and I moved to Tampa.
That's fair. That's fair.
But I live in Tampa, and it was really like for the location of being able to fly home, going back to St. Thomas if I wanted to. I can hop on a plane because the cost of flights from here are not that bad. But it also, the benefits that we have here for veterans is super amazing. And it was like, he was like, "Well, let's go to Texas." And at that time, he has family in Texas. And I'm like, "Baby, we can't be close where people can drive. We need them to have to call before they get on the road to come see us at our house. Please and thank you." I cannot. So I'm at the point where Florida was a really good decision. But for me, I'm new to the game of pageantry. I got introduced to the veterans one by Ariel Ramsey, and she was like, "Oh, you should do it." And I'm like, "What you talking about? Like, what we doing?" And then I'm telling her now, I'm like, "I don't know about this, guys. Like, I don't know about this." And she's like, "You'll be okay." And I'm like, "I still don't know about this, guys. I don't know." Because I have never, when I tell you, never, ever blinked an eye at even thinking about pageantry or any of this. She was like, "You'll be so great." And I'm like, you sound great saying I'll be great.
Can I borrow your confidence? Can I borrow some?
But I don't know about this. So we gonna see. Listen, we're gonna see. We're gonna see how this go down. But for me, the biggest thing for me is my mission is to empower women. And I am creating a space where women can reclaim their power, because growing up, I wasn't taught to take a breath and let it go. I was taught, "Ooh, girl, subconsciously I was taught, right? Because we believe that a lesson has to be said out their mouth, but it doesn't. We see what happens. We see what goes on. And I really, truly believe that a lot of us grow up and subconsciously we hold on to the anger that our parents, and we don't pay attention to the energy. So my biggest thing is we need to start paying attention to the energy we bring and the energy we allow around us, but also remembering the energy that comes from where we came up from, right? Because we don't have to live like other people. So a lot of us hold on to, "Oh, my mama did this, my dad," like the badge of honor. For me, anger was my badge of honor. And when I tell you, that didn't serve me. And until I let it go, I could not live my best life. Now, when you ask me now, listen, girl, I don't blink an eye at anybody and they nasty energy. And I don't you can go about your business or you can stay over there with your nastiness. But me and mine,
I think Tupac had a very good anecdote on this matter specifically. I like to see you just not at my table. I feel similar.
Hey, listen, I will quickly, and the biggest thing is I didn't know back then I was an empath. And a lot of people don't have any idea about energy and the things that you attract. And
yes,
I just want to teach women how to reclaim their power, master their mindset, and protect their energy, because we weren't taught that. And until you're taught that, you'll continue to be in this unhappy space where you allow everything to uproot your spirit, and then you're mad just to be mad every single day.
Yep. I very much understand what you're saying. Like for me, after I had a triple limb salvage, I was rightfully angry about what had happened, but I was punishing the people around me that didn't deserve it, and that wasn't fair to them. And so for me, that's why I really had to take control of trying to work on my triggers, work on my mental health, and work on these things, because of the fact that the people that did what they did, they're long past getting punished by anyone besides, outside factors. But it's important that you don't hold on to things that basically traumatize the next generation and create more generational trauma.
Absolutely. And that word trigger is the key word right there, the triggers. Nobody pays attention to what triggers them and what they hold on to.
Yep, absolutely. It's so important. And so speaking of empowering women, so this is May. This Rosie the Ravager, yeah. So she's with the district, she's with the state of Pennsylvania's district attorney, yes. Why can't I think today? Oh. Sorry, I had like a whole space cadet moment. But yes, so yeah, the attorney general. Why? Like it's hard today. I don't know. It's this thing. She was with the attorney general for the state of Pennsylvania. She's very excited. She came on the podcast. I actually was wearing a hat. I always wear a hat to make May laugh because I produce her podcasts, and so I was wearing what I was going to wear to see Rammstein, Anne. And so she like their whole office saw the hat first because May came on later, and I was like, oh. Because I usually put it on and take it off before everyone pops. It didn't succeed that time, but they had questions. But so I was hoping I could ask you ladies a couple questions, if that's all right. And so I didn't show your photos, and I apologize for that. It just got back from Europe. So like jet lag is harder when you're older, I think. It was like 12 hours straight. I just can't. But so. All right, Krenda. So this is Miss Texas USA. Look at her. Yes. Okay, I'm here for it. Yes. Like I'm loving the sash too. Like that's a nice sash.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, what is a common misconception about being a title holder, in your opinion?
A common misconception about being a title holder. Well, for me. It was the expectation of what a title holder looks like. What does a Miss Texas look like? What does a Miss Florida look like? What does a new Miss New Mexico look like? I don't think that there is a look for it. I think it's a who you are. It's a what your platform is. It's a your charisma. It's a you. I think that the misconception is that pageantry is still stuck in the old traditional ways. We're not in the 40s and 50s when pageantry was still new and there was a one size fit all. All title holders don't look the same. We don't all speak the same, and we all don't come from the same background. We are educated and empowered women empowering other women. We are not all homemakers. We are not all the same. And so the one misconception that I can say that I see the most is the one size fit all.
Thank you. And you're absolutely right. And so Miss Anne, your next, same question. Look at her. Yes. Look, you're just adorable everywhere you go. Look at her.
Yes. So misconceptions. Well, first of all, that photo was taken in Huntsville, Alabama. A few weeks ago, I had my daughter I signed her up for space camp, and I really highly recommend that. I know that if you work for the Department of Defense, they have some programs that sponsor that. I paid out of pocket because I think there's an age, certain age group where they do sponsor. So look out for that if you do work for the DoD as a civilian, or if you're still on active duty. Great way to promote STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And those two statues, it's to honor the veterans. And so I had to get that photo. And even though I was just sweating, and I know Florida and Texas, we have the high desert here. So if you want to get away from the heat, when the sun sets, it cools down so nicely in the high desert that you don't get that humidity that just stays into the evening. So Krenda, Brandy, Cheese and Marie, you guys are more than welcome to visit anytime, and we'll have more time together to just talk. But misconceptions, I have to, I guess, share a story about how, so I was second runner up as part of the 2022 court, and we cover for each other. We're each other's wingmen. And I was taking a ton of photos for our 2022 queen, and she came up to me and she goes, there's this guy that would just, and I'm sure, Krenda, if you have stories that are similar, or Chisa Marie, if you have stories where like just strangers, especially men, would come up and say, hey, can I take a picture with you? And then, first of all, that happened to me at the museum. And I said, well, is your wife with you? Let me, let's take a picture together. And so, or it's just kind of creepy when somebody's like, hey, can I take a picture of you? And I said, well, do you have your family with you? And then let me take a picture with them. It's that just trying to, make it a community thing. And then, once you get their attention, then you can tell them about your platform. But the queen was like, this one guy just wanted photos with her as a revenge photo for his ex-girlfriend or ex-wife. And I'm like, how awkward is that to use?
Don't make me part of your plot.
Well, it's just like one of those things you have to deal with. And as military veterans, I think we're tough enough to just like, say, hey, hold on a second here. I think that's a little awkward. And I think, that's not going to go well, even if you are exes. It's just one of those things where you just have to tell, people like, hey, I would love to take a photo, but if your wife is here, if your family is here, if your group is here, let's, because it makes it a little less awkward. And so I think another misconception is like, we volunteer to do this. Like nobody's, unless it's a huge pageant system and unless they have a huge budget. A lot of what we do, the volunteer work, the showing up for events, it's all out of pocket. We spend a lot of money getting our outfits together, unless we have sponsors that are willing to donate the evening gown, or you just borrow clothes. A lot of this is volunteer work, and a lot of it is out of pocket. If we buy coins to give out, it's basically out of our pocket, unless you're with a pageant system that has a huge budget and they give swag for you to hand out. But a lot of times I think people don't realize that what we do is volunteer work. We don't have our secretary, unless again it's not a huge pageant system like the Miss USA, Miss America platforms. You have all these other pageant systems where a lot of it is on you. You schedule your own events, you show up, and that's another misconception.
Yep, I agree. I tried doing the sponsorship for a dress when I was running for Miss Veteran America, because we had to pay to have a green screen videographer do all of our like competition parts for like the walk, because it was during COVID when I competed, and it was crazy expensive to try to be able to do it. I'm thankful the girls don't have to do that now, because it was like, I think we ended up spending like almost $5,000 or something. But I remember I did one of those wish lists, and the guys thought it was funny, and they all bought the stick-on bras. So I got like 5 sets of stick-on bras and nothing else. I was like, I hate you. But that was a slightly inappropriate story. Sorry, guys. But I will go ahead and ask one more time to Miss Shisa Marie. So what would you say is a common misconception about being a title holder?
So for me, because all of this is new, like when I tell people now that I'm doing, they're like, really? And I'm like, I guess in reality, they think it's like back, like Krenda was saying, back in the day when they were, those big hairs and all the things and all the craziness that you equal up to. Like, oh, so that's what you're doing. I'm like, listen, it's not what I'm doing. Worry about yourself. Just keep watching, right? Don't assume, but that's what people do. In reality, everybody makes an assumption, and their assumption is their reality. And what I've learned in life is I don't waste time and energy trying to convince anybody else to understand why I'm doing things, because it's really not for them to understand. It's, you can either support me or you can keep it moving. That's my biggest thing in life. Like I have learned so much after, in my afterlife, as I get older, it's like, why was I worried about, like, I didn't worry about people, but I let it play in my head. The stories would revolve and like, why did I say that? Now I'm like, fool, I don't even care what you think, what your thought process is, how you think I should show up. I'ma just be me. You don't like it? I cannot apologize for who I am, because I'm no longer gonna limit myself or make myself smaller for anybody else in their thoughts.
It is what it is.
That's what you get.
Yes, but definitely, yeah, I agree. So this is I love this. This looks like easily something you could see on a book, or something just about explaining like the importance of self-care, especially with empaths. Like, that's a beautiful. I love this shot. Yes, I love photo shoots in general, so I'm like very particular. So love it. And so let me go ahead and ask. So Krenda, what was the hardest part of becoming a veteran advocate to you?
The hardest part about becoming a veteran advocate was structuring and finding the foundation for my platform. What worked, what doesn't work, where are my allies, where I can get help. When I started off so I'm new to pageantry as well. Miss Veteran America was my first pageant, and I got shot in the foot a lot of times with Miss Veteran America, and I was really discouraged with the people in my community. I was just like, wow, how come nobody understands that what I'm trying to tell them is important? Homeless women veterans and the prevention of and the reduction of and all of that is important. It was more about my look, it was almost like everybody was waiting for an ask. And there wasn't really an ask for me straight away. It was, how can we partner? How can we collab? And it didn't, finding the words, finding the right vibe, and finding the tribe to be with me, move with me on this journey was a little bit difficult. But when I found it, it was great. When I found all the people that were like, what you're doing is important, what you're doing is so fun. And if anybody, out there watching knows me, I was not a cheerleader. I was the absolute jock. I was in my books. I was a homebody. And so to see me out there doing stuff like this, like, yeah, I can talk to probably a tree, like Gail King says, I can talk to a tree. But I wasn't really that super social. And when I got out of the military, I found that I had lost my words a bit. I wasn't as articulate as I had remembered myself being. I was a little nervy and a little bit nervous and on edge about having to talk to people. And so I feel like now I have found my footing. I have regained the confidence that I feel like I lost when I took off my superhero cloak, my uniform. And I feel like, people are either going to listen or they're not. The problem is going to not resolve itself, But if I continue to reach, if I can just reach one person here and one person there, then I've done enough.
That's awesome. And I love that. Krenda is just awesome in general. All right, Miss Ann. So what about you? What was the hardest part of becoming a veteran advocate for you?
Time management, because everything, and my Sash sisters will probably agree, like a lot of this is what you do with your time and how you want to promote the platform. I think at the end of the day, it's just amazing when you find your tribe, when you find that flow. I went to the VFW, I went to the American Legion, I went to the where did I go? The Fraternal Order of the Police, the FOP, and they were so generous. Like, when we ask for a donation or just have a donation tip or do something simple as karaoke night, and talking to the right folks that allow you to just be a part of that community for even just one evening. When I did Miss Veteran America, it was a lot of fundraising, and I really want to thank everybody who just, even if they donated $5, like that is something to help out. And so, you find yourself in situations where, like, one night we were at the VFW and the commander of the VFW recommended that this stranger, he came in, he wasn't a veteran, he just happened to be there that night, and he said, hey, we're looking for veterans to star in this art show. And the commander's like, well, we have plenty of veterans here. And I happened to be there that night, and so that opened up another door where, yes, it took more time, it took more effort. We ended up doing, I guess, creative movement that helped with the music and the display of art for this one evening, and we practiced, and it led up to the event. But that raised over $600. Like, I guess they give a check or some kind of compensation to the performers. And so it just kind of worked out where if you go to the VFW, if you go to the American Legion, you go Fraternal Order of the Police, wherever you go, you might make other connections. And then that opens up a door to another event that you can do. And so I really thank, like, everybody along the journey, and especially all of our friends on social media who have fundraised, who have with certain nonprofits, you can fundraise where you have a button to push on, like Facebook, for example, and it goes directly to the nonprofit. So that was so convenient where I didn't have to collect cash and then turn around and then, so just having that button, using technology to our advantage, and then you can track how much has been donated on your page. So that was really cool. But it was a challenge because I've never used Instagram. I'm going to be 51 years old this year. And when I did, yeah, and I've never done a Reels. I don't even have TikTok, but that's a security issue. We can talk about that later. But, Reels, I've never done a Reels. How do I do that? Right. So that was the biggest hurdle as a Gen Xer over.
No, I'm just trying to laugh because I'm like thinking of two stories. I don't know if I should tell them or not, but I am. It's because I can. But so when I was running for Miss Veteran America, I really tried to behave. I'm just not good at it, I guess. But we had to be very creative during COVID and sell bath bombs. And like I would make, they had toys inside for kids and the kids liked them. And I made like origami flowers, and we had like auctions and all kinds of stuff. But before they closed everything down for COVID, they were allowing us to do certain events. So there's a big giant flea market, but it's huge here called Traders Village. And they have a lot of celebrities that come and do autograph signings. For some reason, they put me in the same box with these people. I'm not famous by any means. I'm infamous. That's true. However, I'm not known by any means. I'm just an asshole. Sorry. But when we were there, I actually ended up meeting a lot of the actors from the movie Blood In, Blood Out, which I don't know if anyone's ever seen the movie, but and they're actually very supportive of homeless persons in general. And so I was talking to Jesse Brego, and I actually found out the guy I was dating was in the movie, and he didn't tell me. I was just like, what? He goes, he's supposed to be here, right? I'm like, what? I'm trying to be, you guys are making this easy at all. And with Reels, when Jazz first started doing Reels on Instagram, I had just interviewed Two Live Crew because Mr. Mix is also Air Force. I don't know if you ladies knew that, but he is. He's Air Force, and he was stationed at RAF Mildenhall when I was about 20 years after I was at Lakenheath, and we found out mid-interview that we were stationed at basically the same place. He even knew where I lived because I used to live in a general's house. And so when she used Two Live Crew as her music, I added them, and they responded. They're like, thank you for your interview. And I was just like, oh, this is Jazz, and she helps homeless veterans too. I was just like, oh, I'm not getting any points. But at the end of the day, you never know who is supportive of, different advocacy, I guess, items. Like some people, you would never guess that they would support homelessness or domestic violence or mental health. But it really is near and dear to them for different reasons. So it's just one of those you can never assume. She's Maria. Do you know that there our most famous? I hope Anne told you what happened. So okay, unmute yourself.
She didn't tell me. We haven't gone deep down. Yeah,
so we met in Orlando because we had taken a combat veteran who was blown up by a suicide bomber and was an amputee to a NEEC master who lives not far from you.
Oh.
Chris Blinson, he's a Marine. He lives in Coral Springs.
Okay.
And he tattooed her free.
Oh.
He donated this tattoo. She had been waiting 3 years on a not as reputable tattooing nonprofits wait list, and it was bothering me that she wasn't being taken care of. So I reached out to him. We had to do all these crazy stuff to pay for her airfare and the hotel and everything, but he donated this tattoo. It was an amazing tattoo that he did for her, and I was just amazed we were part of the process. But that's how I met. When I met Anne was because we were there around the same time as Miss Veteran America. So I was like, well, on our way out, we'll come and see you, because the next day we took her out on a Huey, and she got to see line jumps from the Vietnam and World War II era.
Nice.
Yeah, on the Tico Bell. So she had a great time. Her caregiver definitely needs hazard pay for sure.
Yeah.
Because she's wild. But so same, I know that was a little bit of a story. I apologize. So same question. What was the biggest challenge for you when you became a veteran advocate?
So for me, it's people understanding that women are veterans, right? That's the problem. And it's like, oh, when I retired, I was married, and it was, oh, your husband. And, a lot of people, they come back with that response, like, no, I'm the vet. And I just look at them. And for me, when he retired, because he was in the Army, he automatically got out and he had 100%. When I got out, I had 80. And this is another thing that I really, for me, is a big thing with when anybody gets out, they just believe what other people say about their disabilities. They're all the things. And when I first went back, let me tell y'all, I studied that what the VA looks at, and he was printing stuff out, and he's he's very analytic. So he's like, let's look at this, highlight this. Well, when I retired, they had removed a tumor from my foot, but they didn't put it in my paperwork. And I'm like, hold up, baby. What are we doing? Because I asked the question, I asked 100,000 questions before I retired, and they're like, oh, it's going to be fine. But when I got out, I looked at my paperwork and it was nowhere to be found. So a lot of people don't know, when you get your first response, you can immediately intend to file. You don't have to wait. You can intend to file, and you have a year from that moment you intend to file to get all your stuff together. So that's what I did. I intend to file, and I went and looked at it. So when they came back, they were like, oh, we're only going to give you 10%. So that took me to 90. Not good enough, guys. Let's run it back. Intent to file again. I intend to file again. And I made sure that I went to the doctor, and I made sure I did everything I need. So what people get confused is they start making up stuff that was never there in the beginning, or things that like, oh, this started hurting too, baby. Focus on what they gave you and stick to it and keep going back to the doctor. So I'm at 100, but when I got my plate, people look at my truck and they're like, oh, it's like the hesitating, like, thanks for your service. No, baby. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Like, it's me. It ain't him. It's me. So I didn't get my plate I didn't get a plate from him on my vehicle. I was like, no, I'm going to drive around with these Florida plates real quick until they get their life together and give me mine. But that's the thing. Everybody assumes that a woman cannot be the veteran. And I know that's what your whole entire podcast is about. That's the biggest thing. Like, oh, when I tell you I was stationed at a base one time and I got out my car and the guy goes, I'm in uniform now. And he goes, oh, you're in the military? I guess not today, guys. I guess I was pretending to wear my husband's outfit and I decided that I was going to get better attention coming in this, right? And he's like, he just looks at me. And for me, I learned real quick, dumb questions deserve dumb answers, right? I'm like, no, I just decided to wear this today. Like, I thought it was pretty. Like, that's reality, right? Like, you think I'm pretty in this too? Like, what are we doing? People don't understand that I can wear boots too, guys. They might be a little bit cuter than the ones you wore, but I'm wearing my boots and I bought them. Nobody gave them to me. And that's the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason the podcast was named Yes, I Am the Veteran is because someone did just what you had said. They actually tried pulling me out of my car through the window, and my daughter's in the back seat, basically like just try to pull me out. And I'm right outside of my house. And I mean, it's not like if I show you the leg, you're gonna have nightmares, but that's on you. But she was just like, your husband's not here and you're not disabled. You need to leave because my parents actually are. And I was like, excuse me? I'm like, you're going to learn something today. Yes, I am the veteran. And this is why I'm parked here. So your parents can walk the 50 yards the other way and wave at me as they pass. You have a good day. Unless you'd like to close this issue.
Wow.
And for me, it's not the first time. I mean, literally, I have to take an Uber to do my infusions. And all the time, whenever I go, I literally have people saying, oh, veterans, you have to be a veteran to go here. No, really? I just go for the snacks. Usually I make like a smart aleck answer. That's probably not the best thing to do in the VA. However, it's kind of just highlighting the fact that what they said was a bit antiquated in nature.
Yes.
But okay, so Krenda, what do you feel is the biggest issue facing the veteran community right at present?
I'd say the biggest issue facing the veteran community right now is the long wait times, the access to care. I will say that I have an amazing tribe and an amazing support system. I will share with you that I am a fibro warrior. I am a fibro thriver. I live every day with fibromyalgia. I wake up every morning on a pain scale of at minimum of 4. And in a blink of an eye, I can be at an 8 without trying. A shower could be the most productive part of my day sometimes. And one of the things that hurts my heart is that the access to care, the disparities within medicine isn't just a civilian thing. It's a veteran thing. It is an everybody thing. And that to know that I have fibromyalgia and, as a woman of color, I may not be able to go to sit call in the VA on a Friday or a Monday, because the first thing they're looking at is, does she have PTSD? Does she have fibromyalgia? What is she really here for? See my pain, see my symptoms, be objective in my treatment. But before I can get there, I have to wait 6 weeks. 6 weeks. What if I'm in crisis right now? The emergency room is going to do what for me right now? They're going to put a Band-Aid on it, and then I'm going to sit for another 4 weeks. And, there are resources out there. Yes, there are great resources out there, and there are many resources out there for our men and women that are in uniform and are veterans. But it's understanding how to get them. It's understanding where they are. Each state has its own requirements, they have their own resources, and just being able to understand them and have access to them, I think is what we are facing.
Awesome. And honestly, that's an amazing answer. And what about you, Miss Ann? What do you feel is a common issue, or what's the biggest issue in your opinion facing the veteran community?
Yes, ma'am. So I worked with some amazing senior non-commissioned officers, and I remembered I did a tour in aircraft maintenance, a career broadening tour, because anybody can sit at a desk and build PowerPoint slides all day. So I said, oh my God, there's so much more to the Air Force than making PowerPoint slides, and put my name in the hat. And I just was so fortunate that we had some amazing senior NCOs, and they tell it like it is. The really good ones, trustworthy ones, they will stay late to nominate, our airmen for awards. But they also said, hey, Captain, when you get out, make sure that, because they would joke about, and I love our I love our health professionals. But as an engineer, I didn't understand what they were talking about when my senior NCOs were like, Captain, it's the medical or the dental hobby shop. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? And they said, well, all of your fillings will fall out if you don't have a really good dentist on active duty when you retire or when you separate. More often than not, your fillings are going to fall out. And then when I retired, like the last 2 fillings I had ended up being 2 root canals, right? So then, yeah, I know you guys are laughing, but it's true.
I'm not laughing. I'm like just picturing in my mind, like, okay, that one's good.
No, I was sitting on a chairlift because I wear a knee brace still when I snowboard, but I'm sitting on the chairlift and I'm like, why does it hurt so much? Because, cold air on a chairlift.
Oh, yes.
And then that was the first sign. And then I finally found what's called an endodontist. So you have to do your own research. And I knew, I'm like, oh, that's an abscess. I mean, I'm just an engineer, but we can do our research. Doesn't matter what your Air Force specialty code is, your MOS, if you're, in the other branches, but you figure it out and you're like, man, this is not a typical headache. So what you want to do as a veteran or non-veteran is you want to do your research and find out there's a specialist. You don't want to go to just a general dentist, but an endodontist to do a root canal. Years later, fast forward, I found a really good endodontist, but then just about a year ago, I had the same headache. I'm like, oh man, I know what this is. So I have private health insurance, private dental insurance, and I made reservations for 2 endodontists, and where I live, I could drive an hour away and find a lot more resources.
Yep.
So instead of waiting, I actually scheduled. You got to play the healthcare system, and you got to learn the ins and outs. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do a morning appointment with one endodontist and an afternoon appointment, and it kind of worked in my favor because the first endodontist took x-rays and confirmed, yeah, you need a root canal. And I'm like, duh. And then the second one, but they could not do the root canal right then. And I'm like, this needs to be done. I don't want to die from an infection that goes up to my brain. And so the second endodontist that I saw, I had them transfer all my records, the x-rays and everything over to the other endodontist because they were able to do the root canal that same day. So you got to play the healthcare system to your advantage. And it's so much effort on your part to do, like Krenda was saying, like your own research and finding where all those resources are for what you need. And so for me, I did not want to wait for the VA. That was a private dental or endodontist, a private care facility. And I was like, man, God bless the VA, but the wait time is depending on where you are and depending on what you need, that's a struggle for veterans, unless you have private insurance and you can kind of play the system to your advantage or learn how to maneuver the system to your advantage. Over.
It's absolutely. It's very smart to do that. I know for me, when I got my 100%, the free dental coverage goes with it, and I was able to go to community care and see an endodontist, because the other dentists were making fun of me because I know one of my front teeth was dead because I've fallen on my face so many times. I paralyzed part of my lip and my tooth. So so you can tell I fall on my face a lot of times, but I still get back up. That's the important part. But it's just knowing your resources. And just to piggyback really quickly off what Ann was saying, one thing that I do, because I was a 41071, which is a medic, but I wasn't just a normal medic. I was trained by the 4Fs, which were the physical technicians before they were phased out of the Air Force. Yeah, because I'm old. But I know how to read every record from every branch. So what I do a lot of times is I'll just sit down with veterans and go through the records. And I would say 99% of the records I've ever reviewed, I find 5 to 15 new conditions that they didn't know were in their medical records. So I would advise anybody to go to va.gov and to look at, like, especially like the PACT Act. I think it's like 14 new conditions that are now claimable. And some of them are from the Vietnam era. A lot of veterans, like, we seem to think like this doesn't, we don't qualify for this, but the absolute maximum with all your benefits and awards, in addition to 100%, is $8,900 a month. So everyone knows that. And that is including the special monetary compensations being maximized. But most people, they get their 100. They don't look at if they're eligible for CSRC, if they're eligible for like the Camp Lejeune water contamination cases. They don't look at, with the PACT Act passing, do I have new claimable conditions that could potentially help me? Now, and can I file for a special monetary compensation, which is an award that can be given in addition to your actual rating? Like for me, I'm fighting for an SMCK award, which is the loss of use of a limb because I have a dead zombie leg. But the VA doesn't know how to do the physical on a zombie leg. So apparently what they keep doing is filling out half of the exam and then failing me because they don't know how to finish the other half. And even when I submitted a 21-page report, it was still not good enough. So I definitely, I very much understand with Ann and what she's doing and what she's going through, because it is very much an issue, especially not knowing, if it's covered or isn't. Some issues are more emergent and you're not going to be taken care of in the ER. They're just going to try to send you somewhere else. So, knowing with your resources and how to cover yourself, it's important and take care of yourself. And so, Ms. Shisa Marie?
Yes, ma'am.
So what would you say is the biggest issue facing the veteran community in your perspective?
So for me, I would say it's along the lines of the same thing that other lady said. And I laughed because I had to get a root canal. And when I tell you, I was in pain for 2 damn days because I was like, what is going on? Why is it hurting so bad? And then I get to the dentist and they're like, oh, you should have just came in. I'm sorry, ma'am. It was a Friday and I didn't know what was going on. I just owned it. And it was like, I'm dying. And then on Monday I called him. I said, listen, I'm dying, guys. This is not okay. And they went in and she did the little test and she's like, oh, we're going to send you to the guy who can test and see if you need a root canal. I was like, when can I get there? Like, can we call him now? And she's like, well, let me call and see if we can get an appointment. I said, because I just need to let him know that I am dying. I died for the whole weekend and I'm really dying now. I need to get in. And he's like, he goes and then he's like, oh, I make sure I do the test. And I'm like, sir, she did the test. That's why I'm here. You got to put me in some more pain because you want to do the test. Like, just take the damn tooth. Like, do what you gotta do.
Read each other's notes.
Hey, for real. Like, she did the test, guy. Like, I don't like the test because the test made my mouth hurt. I mean, when I tell you I was popping every 4 hours, I was popping something like, I didn't think I ate for the whole entire weekend because I was like, I can't, my mouth, I don't know what's going to happen. Because it went from, I couldn't do cold, I couldn't do hot. And I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. He was like, yeah, as it died, as the nerve got worse, the feeling, and I'm like, just take tell me after you're done taking the tooth. But on top of that, when I got my surgery for the second time, I was out the military, but I ended up paying for it through my TRICARE because the VA were like, we're going to have to put in community care. And I'm like, sir, ma'am, the foot, it's already growing. Like, I need you to get it out. Like, I don't want it because it was double the size when I retired. So when I got it out 8 months later, it had doubled in size and I had to have the same surgery. Then I went to see a doctor. I'm gonna tell y'all, I'm not okay. Okay. So I get into the doctor and the guy goes, we're in that waiting room for an hour waiting for my appointment. I get in there and his bedside manner was garbage. He was like, I would have took your toes from the beginning. You wouldn't even been in this. And I'm like, I said, you know what? That's interesting. I said, it's a good thing you're not my doctor. And I said, you have a great day. Because he couldn't even help me. Like, you got all this stuff to say, but you can't even do the small little things. You looked at my foot and was like, oh yeah, I can't help you. I have to send you out.
I would have amputated, but good thing you're not seeing me today. Are you convincing me not to have you as my provider?
When I first went in, the doctor, I went from Hawaii to Washington State because nobody in Hawaii would touch my foot. They're like, I don't know what this is. I don't want to do this. So go to an Army doctor, and he's running 50 tests, and the other guys were like, take a breath, sir. You can't be running all these tests. And I'm like, run the test, baby, because I need to know if this is. I'm okay with the test. Just let's make sure this is not, because he did a test where I had to drink that stuff to make sure it wasn't through my body. It was a whole thing. And they were like, calm down. We haven't even got the results because it had a horrible snowstorm there and they couldn't get my biopsy results. I spent 2 weeks in Washington State because the whole state shut down. But now I noticed that a lot of the veterans, the mental health is a big thing, right? I went to, they have a whole health program here. And because I have a health and life certification, the lady was like, come see how the program runs and see if you really, because I was looking into being a coach with them. Cute. I sat down and did orientation. When I tell y'all, I was so thrown off by the orientation alone of how they have just random people doing orientation. And there's veterans in there with real problems. And the guy was giving his little, clicking through the slides, and he goes, a part came up with meditation and how you could do coloring and all these different things. And he goes, I don't even know what that is. So we're not even gonna talk about that. And I'm like, what are we doing right now? Like, I am so disgusted with what you just said out your mouth. And I'm bothered by the fact that I don't know if this guy was a veteran too, but have people who know what they're talking about teach something to somebody else instead of just, I don't know what, I'm just gonna move on. But there was an older guy, and he was complaining about the fact that he's been to several different VAs and nobody's helping him. It was an older white guy. And he's like, the lady goes, so what brings you in? So we all had to go around the room, right? And he goes, I don't know. And I'm like he's sitting right next to me. And I'm like, he's like, somebody told me to come here. She was like, well, who told you? She's trying to get down to the deeper root of it. He was just so angry. But what I realize is a lot of the veterans are angry because they're not getting help, or people are just passing them along saying, go to this place, go to this place, go to this place. And it's like, can we figure out what's really wrong before we start pushing people to? I understand everybody's busy. I will understand there's a lot of veterans, but if we get to the root of the problem in the beginning, instead of waiting till it erupts to utter chaos where they're so angry because they've been pushed around so much, and then it turns around and new people getting out are like, I've heard such horror stories about the VA, and that was me, right? I heard horror stories about the VA is horrible, blah blah blah, and I'm like, what are y'all talking about? But now I go and I'm like, I meet such amazing people. I don't see what they're talking about. I can't grasp it, but I learned that if I change how I show up, the people that are helping me change how they respond. And that made my time easier. So for me, I would love to get into the VA and be a part of one of those programs where I can help people. Let's just take a breath, right? Like, let's see what our options are. Like, what other resources? Can we look into something else? But people, they take no, and they say that's their end. They don't want to look any further. They just like, well, they can't help me. Baby, we need to help ourselves. Like, who else can I call? Through the whole military, I was like, oh, you can't help me? Somebody else can help me. I'm calling somebody. I'm a fine. No is not an answer for me. I don't accept no. No, I can see how I can help you is the answer I want to hear. Not no. Like, don't tell me no, because I don't like it. I'm that person that doesn't like that word no. And I sometimes tell my children, I'm like, no. And I'm like, no, because I said no, but don't tell me no, guys. I don't want to hear no. But yes.
I think honestly, I mean, I get it. And I think you're right. Mindset really does make a difference, especially when you're trying to get things taken care of. And I think that it does lead to a lot of people getting frustrated and angry. I know I'm definitely one of those people. I didn't know until recently, but prosthetics, when they recently have security down in this prosthetics, is because the amputees actually try to fight the providers if they tell them they won't fit them for the prosthetic, because it's not they want to be mean, it's just because they're not ready physically for it yet, right? Because you have to mature, the scar and tissues have to mature enough to be able to tolerate it, because it is quite painful. People always think like, oh, snap your leg and you're fine now. Right? No, I'm not Optimus Prime. Like, no, like this hurts. It's 70 pounds of leg, and half the time it malfunctions. No, it's not fun, guys. So I definitely agree. So we'll go ahead and close up tonight. Thank you guys so much for coming on for the podcast. I feel bad that we were having some technical issues right when we first started, but I'm glad that they did get taken care of. Streamer does get, look at your heart. Yeah, I did that for you in Germany, Anne. I did that for you looking at Crispe, just for you. And he winked. I think he pointed at my friend because he wasn't doing it.
Mine doesn't work.
Oh, yeah, I was like, I kind of wish I need to figure this out. How are you doing this? Okay. So what would you guys say to veterans in dark places? So we'll close it with final thoughts. And what would you say to veterans in dark places? What would you say, Krenda?
First and foremost, I want to thank all of my supporters, community, Texas people. You have been amazing. To my veteran community, what I would say is hang in there. Don't give up. Without you, somebody else's blessing is missing without you. Stay the course. Keep smiling, because your smile may have just saved somebody else's life. Smiles aren't always easy to come by, but if you keep yours, then you're the keeper of your happiness.
Nah, that was a perfect answer. What about you, Miss Anne?
Well, first of all, thanks for having us on here. And it's so nice to see you ladies and spend this Friday evening with you and anyone who's listening. I was in a VFW in Connecticut, and my boyfriend flew out there, and I went with him. And he's not a veteran, but he happened to be taking a class at a VFW. And so I got to talk to so many veterans along this journey. It's a way to connect, even if you've never done a competition or a pageant before. So for you lady veterans out there, don't overthink it, just do it, just try it. You will meet amazing ladies like I've met here. And then, just the anger we talked about, just having so much anger sometimes. I was sitting at that VFW in Connecticut, and I just happened to be talking to several veterans, and one of them in particular, I think he lived alone, and he had a little too much to drink. And I think, he's a regular there, so they know who he is. And I was just visiting from out of state, but sometimes people just need somebody to listen to them, because I realized how angry this veteran was, and I just started to talk to him and sort of listen to him, and then I could tell that his anger kind of went away. So I think just having somebody to listen to you is so helpful. And if you feel like no one's listening, just sometimes being around other veterans, even if you're drinking at the bar at the VFW, and I choose not to drink because, it's just not good for me. But I think having a place to go, even if you're upset, even if you're mad, you're still in good company, and at least they know who this person is, and that he's a regular and he's familiar with that. But at the same time, I just think about him every so often and pray for him that he finds a better way other than alcohol to deal with his anger. So I think about those veterans from time to time. And there's hope, and there's prayer. So, and there's love.
Nah, that's right. Look at you guys. Yep.
She's awesome.
My happy place is my forge. I'm saying, if I'm not making knives, I'm not happy. But okay, well, what about you, Miss Chisa Marie?
So for me, I want people to know that there's so much power in taking a breath. And the deep breath that you take before you respond, or before you even, I guess, acknowledge somebody and their negativity, because it's so easy to pick up somebody else's negativity and not just allow yourself to just be there. It is in a place where you have to be to understand that sometimes the things you're holding on to is no longer serving you. So if it's no longer serving you to be in that place, it's time to, I always say, dig deep, because a lot of people want to just brush over the surface, like, oh yeah, I saw a therapist, they didn't work. But here's the thing, you were not willing to really truly tell that therapist what was going on, or that therapist wasn't asking the right questions. Because the surface level people are like, oh, how you doing? Oh, I'm good. But are you really, right? Like, so when we take a deep breath before we even respond to anybody, before we even, like, when you wake up in the morning, just take a deep breath before you get out the bed and ask yourself, like, create the intention that this day is going to be great regardless of the circumstance in front of you. Because when we start to change those little things, like having gratitude, shifting how we look at a situation, it is so much power behind that. It can take you to another level. And I know a lot of people are going to say it's easier said than done. It absolutely is. But when we're willing to allow ourselves to believe that we are the creators of our life, and no matter what you're creating, big, small, horrible, great, you're still creating it. You're the one that allows that bad story to continue. If you just shift one thing in your day, just one, like, you know what, today's going to be great, and I'm not going to let anybody annoy me. You are ahead of the game already, that in one day. But you have to believe in yourself and stop worrying about everybody else believing in you.
I feel like every time I say that today's going to be a great day, my ex-husband decides to call me.
Stop answering the phone, girl. Stop. Hey, the universe said, oh, go ahead and call her. She says she wants to have a bad day today. Call her, because that's
I didn't manifest that though. But no, honestly, manifesting is very important for me. I couldn't really sleep in a bed for 5 years, so I always think about 3 things that I'm truly thankful for before I even try to get out of bed, because I had 17% circulation, so it was like agony. So I had to sleep on a couch for years. So I'm always thankful that I'm in a bed. But I mean, it goes definitely with you manifesting and what you're saying. I mean, having that faith in yourself, like even when you feel like you don't have that faith to be borrowed even. I mean, I can tell you when I was competing for Miss Veteran America, I was like, why am I even competing? They're going to come out with pitchforks and torches. I'm scared, but I was like, I got to fake it till I make it, and I had the head of all YSL makeup do my face palette. So when some of the meaner girls switched my makeup artist to a not very good one, they still couldn't mess it up because it was like face by numbers or whatever. But for me, it's all about mindset, and I mean, a lot of us aren't normal. Like, what is normal besides a summation of averages? So at the end of the day, like, just be the best version of yourself that you can be. Sometimes some of us, like myself, my parts of you will never grow back. And so I've had to come to peace with that. And so being your best version of yourself that you are at present is really something that you can strive to. And for me, when it was hard, I had to borrow that confidence until like I realized, like, holy crap, I'm actually doing this. So, bet on yourselves. Like, I guess that's maybe what I said to kind of piggyback off of what Chisa was saying, because of the fact that a lot of us, I think that we don't have enough faith in ourselves, and there's a lot of friends that are Debbie Downers and they don't like to support. But if your friend wants to do something dumb, as long as it's fairly safe and not the reason for the safety brief, support them. If they want to be a surfboard expert, like a paddleboard, connoisseur, whatever, if they want to eat crackers and feet, whatever, as long as it's hygienic, let them do it. At the end of the day, support the behaviors that need to be supported. That's how I feel about it. But at the end of the day, it's hard to do the things that these ladies have all done. I lost in style. I was happy to lose, to be honest. But I mean, to win and to be able to keep that up for a whole year, and all the advocacy that you guys have done, Anne hasn't stopped in 3 years. Like, where do you find the energy, Anne? But at the end of the day, you guys are all my sheroes. I think you're all amazing. And, thank you guys so much for coming on and sharing some of your insights and stories and listening to me ramble. I do apologize. But and really quickly, once again, I do want to let everyone know, because I was breaking up a bit earlier, that you've got until August the 1st to file for your clothing allowance for the VA. So if you've not done it, you guys got 11 days. Does that mean you can call your doctor and schedule an appointment if you can get into prosthetics fast enough? If it's been over 2 years, yes. And you can file for separate allowances. The most I've seen a veteran receive per annum was $8,000. And that's something that's not tax It's not something that's tax deductible. It's something that it comes out different than your normal VA. And it usually deposits between September 1 and December 1, which is great around that time to have an extra $1,000. That's probably about the fastest way I've ever seen veterans receive this allowance. So even if you don't feel that it's something that applies to you, share the information. Let other veterans know. Like, I'm totally notorious for camping outside prosthetics and asking veterans that come in, have you filed for your clothing allowance? And I would say 70% of the time they have no clue what it is. And these are people that are going in and getting their braces actively serviced. So, just share the information, guys. For me, I didn't know for a decade I was eligible for it. That's a car I could have in my driveway. But now I found out, and so I like to share with other veterans as well. But thank you, ladies, again so much for coming on. I'd love to have you guys follow up and let me know how you're going, how you're doing in your ventures. You guys are all doing so much. I'm proud of all of you guys, and thank you for empowering all of us ladies and gentlemen out there that really need that inspiration. You can take shows off mute. I promise I'll shut up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're an inspiration in yourself.
You are.
Thank you, Brandy.
Don't tell anyone that I have a reputation to keep.
We won't say anything.
But all right, guys. Well, we'll be back on maybe in the next week or so. I'm doing some changes. I'm being awarded a house, I believe, in August. So I'm trying to get everything in order and taken care of for that. But we definitely have a lot of upcoming events that we can't wait to share. And if anyone has any questions about what we talked about tonight, if you guys would like a link, if you would like to be connected with someone, if you would like to ask any of these amazing ladies about what they're doing or their advocacy, please reach out. They all have amazing social media pages. You can also message our podcast. We'll absolutely be happy to send the information over. But we are on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and I believe TikTok now. But sorry, I'm tired. So my memory's terrible. But we are on most major platforms now. And just reach out if you guys need anything. And do you guys have anything else to share?
Just thank you, and I love you. Keep smiling.
Man, love you guys too. All right, guys. Well, have a good night. Aurelia, take us away.
Hi, I'm Aurelia. Just a reminder, smash like, hit subscribe, and click the bell. Please give me my mommy some hearts. Yay, victories!